Welcome, 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 welcome. Welcome to the all-America city of Geneva, New York. For those of you who are first-time visitors, be sure to buy a building on your way out of town. There's not a lot left, so get in now. Before we get started, we've got a great program today. I'm going to lead off with a little background on how we got here, in case you don't know. I'm going to introduce, I used to call him New York State's comedian-in-chief, but apparently he's retired from that, and he's now the Empire State Development President, Howard Zemsky, of course, Governor Cuomo, Hobart and William Smith President Mark Gearan, and we'll be walking through a lot of really incredible announcements today. As I noted, lots of dignitaries here, as you might expect. In addition to all the speakers I just named, we've got Senator Pam Helming from our own 54th District. Thank you for coming, Senator. A great, great friend to the City of Geneva, a local planning committee member and chairman of the Ontario County Board of Supervisors, Jack Marin. My neighbor and my YMCA director, my kids' camp coordinator, and Ontario County Supervisor Charlie Evangelista. Geneva's great cousin, the Town of Geneva Supervisor Mark Venuti. New York State Senator Emeritus, I think, retired New York State Senator Mike Nizzolio. Welcome, thank you, sir. Greater Rochester Chamber of Commerce President and so many other great titles in his career, Bob Duffy. Wegmans Chairman, Danny Wegman, and also Chair of the Finger Lakes Regional Economic Development Council, and a huge Geneva supporter. New York Wine and Culinary Center, President Ginny Clark, a great Geneva partner, and our partner in workforce development and higher education, Finger Lakes Community College President Bob Nye. So a lot of you were in this room a couple months ago, and you saw Governor Cuomo deliver an amazing promise to Geneva, a $10 million promise for revitalizing downtown. We've done a lot of work. We've done a lot of work in the last 15 years to bring Geneva to this point. And this investment, this signature investment, is going to take Geneva to the next level. We are, by all accounts, an amazing community. And it is through the hard work and incredible effort of most of the people in this room, if not all of you. Back in the spring, when Governor Cuomo came, the promise he made was, you got a little more hard work to do, and he asked us to put together a strategic investment plan. Mayor Alcock, Tom Masinski, our friends from the Regional Economic Development Council, co-chaired what was arguably, I think, one of the most productive planning efforts that Geneva has undertaken. We put together something that I would never term as a wish list, something that is a strategic investment plan. I see lots of the local planning committee members here. That was not an easy task. When I use the term heavy lift, I am not being disingenuous. These folks heard hours and hours and hours of public feedback, of comment, lots of heavy debate, and at the end of the day, put together an incredible project list, many of which you will hear announced by the governor today. But the $10 million, the strategic investment plan, is really the culmination of another wildly successful and incredible idea that Governor Cuomo has laid out. And that is this regional economic development approach. This idea that rather than being competitors, rather than charging ahead independently, we're going to work together. And I'll share two short anecdotes about why that's working for Geneva. Many of you are here today to celebrate a lot of the amazing work that Geneva has done. We know there's a lot more work to do. The city of Geneva struggles with an incredibly high poverty rate. When we sat down after our comprehensive plan identified this issue, we did not strike out on our own and try to reinvent the wheel. We looked to the work that was already happening, that was already being modeled through the Rochester, Monroe County Anti-Poverty Initiative, Danny Wegman's efforts, Ann Kress's efforts, the regional council, focusing really specifically on poverty in Rochester. So we had examples of programs that were already working, and we're starting to model our programs after those efforts. Yet this week, the city had our first all-hands planning retreat, staff planning retreat. We had 100 city staff people. We closed down City Hall, so if you had to pay a parking ticket and it's late, let me know. I'll get you a break on the late fee. But we closed down City Hall for the day, and we started talking about something we call the triple bottom line. We don't call it that. It's an industry term. And it's the idea that we're going to focus on financial bottom line, which is critical, but also, rather than just looking at the dollars and cents, we're asking ourselves, how will our projects impact the social fabric of Geneva? How will our projects impact the environmental fabric of Geneva? Because those two pieces are so critical to our brand and to why we're here. We didn't invent it. We learned about it when Governor Cuomo convened the Sustainable Development Conference in Rochester. And we heard a gentleman from Genesee Brewing, from North American Breweries, present on this topic. And because of that connection, because of that regional approach, we were able to approach the CEO of North American Breweries to come to Geneva. He came, spent hours with us, working on implementation of triple bottom line. We don't have to do it alone. We're a small city. We're 13,000. We've got financial challenges and struggles. And now we have this amazing resource. We're here together. We're in it together with the city of Rochester, with the city of Batavia, with the city of Canandaigua, and so many others. And we're learning from them, they're learning from us, and we're all going to be successful as a result. Governor Cuomo is my third New York State governor. I've been here through 3 governors. If you listen to the first 2 governors, you would have a hard time hearing the word upstate, much less thinking about upstate in a strategic way. Governor Cuomo has brought intense focus to upstate New York. We were forgotten. Senator Nozzolio worked for years in the state assembly, banging on the podium. Recognize us, hear our plight. And Governor Cuomo brought incredible focus to our plight, and I think we're seeing the rebirth of upstate New York as a result of his efforts. So as I note, the Downtown Revitalization Initiative is not the icing on the cake. It's a lot of icing, 10 million. It is the cake. It is the work that we need to do to advance our upstate communities to the next level. So we spent a good solid 3 or 4 months putting together this strategic investment plan. We arm wrestled, we shouted, we got passionate about projects. I see Reverend Golden nodding. He was at the table, really fighting for the right projects. And we put together this incredible plan. And today, we're here to hear the fruits of that effort. So I could stand up here all day and talk about Geneva. Governor, if you have time, let's just stick around for the rest of the evening and we'll do that. But I assume you have someplace else to be at some point, so we better transition on to the next phase of the program. I want to welcome to the podium next an incredibly tough act to precede. The Empire State Development CEO, the Chief Economic Development Officer for the state of New York, and the funniest economic development professional in the United States, Howard Zemsky.
Oh, man. That's impossible to follow. Plus, you took my whole spiel there. Good job. Nice to be here in Geneva. I'm not going to be funny. Anyway, the legislature banned funny from this year's budget. So if I'm not funny, blame them. Matt referred to decentralized strategic planning, and the governor has changed economic development 180 degrees by formation of these regional councils. And those bottom-up, strategic, collaborative, economic, holistic economic approaches to economic development. Similarly, the Downtown Revitalization Initiative empowers these local cities and municipalities, again, to develop your own plans and to compete. That's another hallmark of the governor's approach, so that the state gets the most bang for its buck in terms of its investment in these cities. So congratulations to Geneva for competing so successfully in this year's DRI. You know, revitalizing downtowns is particularly important in upstate New York because we lost a disproportionate share of young people. We lost population in many upstate cities, but we lost too many young people. And so it's important for all ages that we invest in our downtowns, but it's particularly important from an economic development standpoint that we do more and more to retain and attract and bring back the young population. So many of them are starting businesses, starting families, things of that nature. So for a skilled workforce, for a dynamic economy, focusing on downtown makes perfect economic development sense. The RED selected Geneva because of your focus on access to the waterfront, your focus on historic buildings, historic blocks, the marina, and many other reasons that you won. But you won because you're going to create a great place for people who live here and work here, and for people who we hope return here and stay here in Geneva. It is no wonder, after such a successful effort that Geneva put forward, that the governor has again included another round, $100 million of DRI competitions again next year. Don't get too excited, you can't compete again next year. But you won. But it's great for the region, and it's great for so many cities, large and small, across the state, particularly, again, upstate. So congratulations, in conclusion, to Geneva for all the great folks who really worked on this plan, who worked smartly and worked collaboratively. Congratulations. And with that, it is my pleasure and privilege to introduce the best friend upstate in particular has ever had, cities both large and small, Governor Andrew Cuomo.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very, very much. It is my pleasure to be back. I just hope you guys appreciate what a really magnificent spot you have, and you never take it for granted. I mean, every time I come, it is just so magnificent in so many ways. So it is truly my pleasure to be back. Matt Horn, who's doing a great job. Let's give him a round of applause. We have my colleagues from Albany, Senator Helming, who's here. It's a pleasure to be with you. Former colleague, who's a great professional and a gentleman, Mike Nozzolio, pleasure to be with you. The greatest lieutenant governor in the world, Bob Duffy. That includes my father there, Bob. He was lieutenant. I better abridge that. The second greatest, to Howard Zemsky, who is a mastermind who runs all the economic development programs in the state of New York, and used to be a funny guy. He really, no, he had a great sense of humor. Something happened, I don't know exactly what, but I said to him actually today, I said, you know, you used to be funny. What happened? He said, I think I'm spending too much time with you, Governor. I really don't know what he meant with that, but I'm sure it was a shot. But he may not be funny, but he is great at economic development. So let's give him a round of applause. Danny Wegman, who's a pillar in the community, and he has been masterful on the Regional Economic Development Council. He does so much for so many, and he asks so little. Danny Wegman, it's a pleasure to be with you. We have Ginny Clark from the New York Wine and Culinary Center, who's been very helpful with this facility. Let's give her a round of applause. And Mark Gearin, who you're going to hear from in a moment. Mark and I don't want to tell you how many years we go back because I look as old as I am. He doesn't. But we go back many, many years. And then when I first met him, we were working in the federal government. And you know, sometimes you just meet a person, and when you meet a person, you say, this is a special human being. The first time you meet Mark Gearin, you say, this is a special human being. And what he has done for the entire state, he was a great college president, but nobody ever doubted that. But more than that, he's been great for the entire region. He's been great for the state. It's a tremendous loss. And why he would want to go to that other state, how do you pronounce that? Massachusetts. Why you would want to go there, I have no really theory. But I'm sure he's going to miss home and he's going to come back right away. But Mark, thank you very, very much for everything that you have done. And let me talk to you a little bit about today's topic. But you've heard it from Matt, you've heard it from Howard. We had a good session in the state because we focus on the basics, we focus on the essentials, and the best thing the state government can do is get the economy running. That is the single best thing that the state government can do. And when it comes on the state level to get the economy running, it's not really a complicated equation. It's a relatively simple equation, but then you have to implement the equation, right? Most equations in life are simple. I want to lose weight. Okay, intake fewer calories and burn more. That's the entire equation. Yeah, but it's very hard to do on a day-to-day basis. I want to make the state business friendly. Okay, very simple. Reduce taxes, develop business incentives, work with regions and local communities to provide incentives to business. Yeah, it's very simple to say, but it's very hard to do. Why? Because governments like to spend money, right? People like to spend money. I have 3 young ladies at home who really love to spend money. But that's a different topic. The legislature loves to spend money. And there's a lot of good things that you can spend money on. So if you want to tax less, you have to spend less. So you have to get spending under control. Our government, Bob Duffy was lieutenant governor for the first 4 years. Our government has had the lowest increase in state spending in recorded history, okay? Now think about that for a second, because a lot of you are sitting there saying, well, hold it a second. That's a Democrat, and I thought Democrats like to spend money. How can it be that a Democrat says he didn't spend more than everybody else? Sometimes labels can be misleading. The Governor Nelson Rockefeller, Republican, spending year to year went up 11%, okay? Governor Hugh Carey, governor 12 years, Democrat, spending went up year to year about 7%. Mario Cuomo, God rest his soul, 12 years, spending went up year to year 6%. Then you got a Republican conservative, George Pataki, 12 years, spending went up year to year 5%. 7 years, spending has gone up under me and Bob, now Kathy Hochul, 2% a year. 2% a year. When you spend less, then you can tax less. Everybody pays a lower tax rate today than they did 7 years ago. Everybody pays a lower tax rate today than they did 7 years ago. Without inflation, without an adjustment, just in absolute dollars, it hasn't gone up a penny in 7 years, and as a matter of fact, it's gone down. We have the lowest middle class tax rate since 1947, lowest corporate rate since 1968, lowest manufacturing tax rate since 1917. Last time it was 0. So taxes are down across the board. And we've invested in economic development. And the result is we have more private sector jobs today in this state than have ever existed in the history of the state of New York, period. And that's the proof is in the pudding. Because if you're creating private sector jobs, if the machine is running, then people have hope, people have careers, then young people stay, then they pay taxes, then the mayor can run the cities, the county executives can run the counties. It's all about job development. In the meantime, we've been rebuilding the state with the greatest investment in construction that has been done in modern political history. $100 billion. Why? Because Vice President Biden was right, and President Trump is right when they say the nation is falling apart and we haven't done anything about the infrastructure. They're right. Last time we built an airport in this country, how many years ago do you think the last time we built an airport in this country? Not since the 90s with the Denver airport. Meanwhile, you fly all over the world and you see state-of-the-art airports. And then you fly into New York and you land at LaGuardia. You want to talk about a shock, right? The roads are crumbling, the bridges are crumbling. When was the last time we built a bridge? We haven't. We're building the largest infrastructure project in the nation right now, the Tappan Zee Bridge that goes across the Hudson River, which they talked about for 20 years. So $100 billion, a new LaGuardia airport, new JFK airport, new train station across the street from Penn Station, new airport in Rochester, new airport in Syracuse, new airport in Elmira, new airport in Plattsburgh, rebuilding more than any state in the United States of America. That's what we're doing here in New York. So we're creating jobs, and it's not just downstate. And Matt Horn is right. The state government in Albany for a long time was myopic. They could only look south. All they saw was New York City. Why? Well, because most of them were from New York City. That's where the majority of the legislators come from. And the legislator's instinct is, I want to do good things for my home district. And when you have most of them from New York City, they all focused on New York City. And that was where the jobs were, and that's what was developing wealth. And upstate New York got the short end of the stick. The way I got Bob Duffy to leave Rochester and come be lieutenant governor was he was always complaining every time I saw him, you know, Rochester, I can't get any attention. Albany doesn't know where Rochester is on a map. I was the attorney general. I said, you're right. I was then running for governor. I said, you want to fix it? You can't fix it from Rochester. Come to Albany, bring a map, we'll show them. There's something called upstate New York. And by the way, it's upstate New York that is suffering. And you want to talk about help and loss of jobs? It's upstate New York. And I'm proud to say we've invested over $30 billion in upstate New York, more than any administration in recorded history, period. And when Bob complains, well, he did a lot of work, drove a lot of miles. When we started, unemployment rate in the Finger Lakes was 7.5%. Today, it's 4.6%. So that's what we did on the statewide level. If you really want to get the economy going, you can't just do it on the state level. You then go to the regional level. And you get the region to work together. And that's what Matt was talking about, and that's what Bob Duffy has been doing, that's what Danny Wegman has been doing, Regional Economic Development Council. Because the economies work in regions now. And how do you come together as a region and develop that regional economy? How do you invest in tourism, which is a big economic driver for upstate New York? With upstate New York was an untold story. The beauty, the geography, the history, the wineries. We spent $200 million in the I Love New York campaign. $200 million, a lot of money. Internationally, tourism dollars went up $15 billion with a $200 million investment. Why? Because when they see it, they love it. We've been investing in wineries and breweries, and we changed the law. When my father was governor, there were 10 wineries in the state of New York. Today, there are 400. When we started, there were 70 breweries. Today, there are 220. Wine tours, beer tours, driving tourism all across upstate New York. So investing in upstate New York, but getting the regions to work together and saying to the Finger Lakes, you're not separate cities and towns and villages. And Geneva, you can't do it by yourself. You have to work with the county. You have to work with the surrounding areas because it all works in a region. And then to drill down even further, you say to towns themselves, come up with a comprehensive plan for your own town, fitting into that region, and that then is the trifecta. A state plan that's working, a regional plan that's working, and then a local plan that's working on the local level. And that's what our downtown revitalization initiative is all about. And we did it as a challenge. We said to localities all across the state, you can compete for a grant. And we did over 120 applications for 10 winners statewide. And people said, well, that's very tough. 120 applications, only 10 winners. We said, because we want to invest in the best. And the competition makes people work. Matt Horn hears, oh, there's 120 applications and there are only 10 winners. We really better get to work. And it worked. And we got 10 great, great plans, and Geneva was one of them. So as Howard Zemsky said, congratulations on the good work that you did. But that was the promise that Matt Horn talked about. I promised you would get $10 million, but there was an if on the promise. You get $10 million if you come up with a specific plan on how to use the money, and we accept the specific plan because it's smart and it's about restoring the community and generating jobs. And that is exactly what you did. You came up with a plan, 12 projects that are innovative, that are feasible, that are going to happen, and are going to transform Geneva. $2.2 million to improve pedestrian access to Seneca Lake across routes 5 and 20. The water is the asset. The water is the asset. Improve access to the water because that is the magnet that is driving people, and that's what you did. And make those thoroughfare human and passable. $1.75 million for streetscape improvements. People come to Geneva because it's beautiful. Make it more beautiful. Make it more breathtaking. And that's exactly what you plan to do. The history is a great asset of upstate New York. And we're losing it all too quickly. It's all too easy to knock down a building and build new. $900,000 to revitalize the historic Dove building so you have the beauty, you have nature, and you have your history at the same time. Use the water, a downtown public marina. Get ahead of the curve, solar power, smaller units. That's exactly what the Lake Tunnel Solar Village is. It is visionary, and we applaud you for it. Patent block building on the retail corridor, bringing more retail, more activity, keep that streetscape as a continuum and current. Rebuild the 5-point intersection. An historic preservation fund in Geneva of $600,000. $475,000 to revitalize the vacant theater into the Twisted Rail Brewery, creating more than a dozen jobs. $183,000 to modernize the Smith Opera House. $150,000 to bring broadband into downtown, which is essential. We have a statewide plan to do high-speed broadband in every corner of the state in 2 years. High-speed broadband is a necessity. You want people to vacation, you want businesses to come, you need it, and Geneva's getting ahead of it. And $142,000 for a new gateway sign proclaiming how proud you are and that people have arrived. Congratulations, it's a smart plan, and it's approved. And that's not all. We're also going to take this beautiful Finger Lakes Welcome Center, and we're going to transform that into an overall tourism center. We currently have 28,000 vehicles that are coming in. It is a perfect location for a full-service Geneva Visitor Center. As I said, tourism is the greatest economic boost we have in upstate New York, and I think we can do even more. We're going to convert this to a 5,500 square foot state-of-the-art Finger Lakes tourism hub. A welcome center which will feature interactive I Love New York kiosks with videos and signage. We're doing it in partnership with the New York Wine and Culinary Center. We're exploring options for a Taste New York store that highlights New York products, New York wine, beer, cheese, dairy, etc. Tourism upgrades that will be a tourism center directing people to tourism activities all across the region, and the variety of tourism activities that we have, showcasing information on the world-class destination and historic sites, our tourism opportunities, our agricultural opportunities. It's going to be very attractive on the inside with wine and water imagery. Strong Museum of Play in Rochester is developing plans for a children's outdoor play area. The City of Geneva and New York Wine and Culinary Center will also be able to utilize the 5,500 square foot center for a nominal fee. Oh, I forget the nominal fee. For future economic opportunity, we're also going to redo the front plaza, the rear plaza. There's going to be a water feature, a pet area, electric car charging stations. It's going to close down in September. It's going to open in late spring in 2018. We want to have a special thanks to the New York Wine and Culinary Center, Robert Sands and Jenny Clark. But we believe it is another smart investment, and New York is going to put in $5 million to make this a reality. So congratulations to you, Geneva. I know it's been a long few years, but you have a comprehensive redevelopment plan that you put together, that works for you, that builds on your assets. And New York State is proud to invest $15 million because I know Geneva will repay that with dividends. Congratulations and God bless you.
Well, what a great announcement. Thank you, Governor Cuomo, for that $15 million announcement for this beautiful space that will be transformed. We warmly welcome you back to Geneva with this announcement. I think you can sense the excitement, the energy in the room, and we thank you most sincerely. The governor is, of course, no stranger to Geneva. He's a bit of a frequent flyer here. We warmly welcome you back. I can remember in my first year as president here, way back, I called my former colleague, and he was then the HUD secretary. I had started a speaker series, and I said, Mr. Secretary at that point, Andrew, do you believe in free speech? He said, yes, I do. I said, good, you're going to give one at Hobart and Williams-Smith. He fell for that in 2000, and he's been back, but we do warmly welcome you back here, and we thank you. It's exciting news. Geneva is the gem of the Finger Lakes. You've seen that. You've encouraged it in important ways. And speaking for those of us who've been a part of this effort, and gratitude to those from the regional committee that have been such important players, we thank you most sincerely. This is really the kind of spark and energy that Geneva will well utilize for what many of us believe is a renaissance here in Geneva. Utilizing these funds and $10 million, it will be well utilized for the downtown revitalization. We've just concluded our reunion here at Hobart and William Smith. And it's fascinating to me how many of our graduates return after 5 years, 15 years, 50 years in a care and are interested in the welfare of Geneva. But what's striking to me are those recent graduates, back after just 5 years, 10 years. They've seen, they report on, they reflect on the enhancements and the dynamism of today's Geneva. So this investment in the downtown neighborhoods, speaking as president of Hobart and William Smith, there's no question in my mind that our students can really have the kind of benefit of these opportunities. Many are very interested in this community, and to Howard's point, really are thinking of ways to stay, the young generation. And I would say to you, Governor, in my now 18 years here, I've known many graduates, now graduates, students and then graduates, who've found a home here in the Finger Lakes and Geneva. They're entrepreneurs, and they were well utilized the kind of spirit that you're lifting us with today. It's no coincidence that entrepreneurial studies is a thriving minor at Hobart and William Smith. When I look around downtown Geneva, Andrew King came here from Princeton, New Jersey. He's now started Space Final right downtown. Julia Hoyle came to Hobart and William Smith from Philadelphia, but she wanted to stay here and is actively involved in the wine industry. Victor Poltinas coming from Boston, it's a trade-off, and Jenna Levito coming from also Boston, starting Lake Drum Brewery. So while we've traded some Red Sox for Yankees fans and vice versa, what I think you're seeing, to Howard's point, is, at least for Hobart and William Smith graduates, finding a home in Geneva, taking advantage of the partnership in this community. And we thank you for this real lift that will add to the renaissance that so many of us are proud of. And finally, we thank you for this $5 million effort to the Visitor Center. And I would say to you in closing, and I guess reflecting from the opportunities that my family and I have had here and that I can reflect on as president, this is a very good investment for the state. Because you want to have a visitor center in Geneva that will be really good at this, that will warmly welcome visitors from near and far. And I can attest to you faithfully that the kind of people here in this room and so many of our other fellow citizens are very good people. Geneva is full of very good people. So you will have a visitor center in spring of 2018, very importantly. But more importantly, you'll have a community filled with good people, filled with people of heart and spirit and effort to welcome people to this beautiful part of the world and to take advantage of the Finger Lakes. So I think we all join with the leadership from state and local efforts that we're also privileged to work with, and I thank Matt Horn especially for your leadership here, and certainly to the Economic Development Board on behalf of the citizens of Geneva, and most especially to a great friend to Geneva and a great friend to the Finger Lakes. I think we all salute and recognize once again Governor Andrew Cuomo.
So we say it a lot, and it's been said a lot here today, but I think thank you falls a little short, right? We are incredibly grateful for the investment, the confidence that New York State and Governor Cuomo have in the Geneva market. One of the things I learned in my time under Governor Cuomo's leadership is that the best way to say thank you to Governor Cuomo is with results. I had to take a trip earlier this year to Albany. I got to travel with friends of mine from the Regional Council, Danny Wegman and Ginny and many others. We went up to give a report to the Governor's Strategic Investment Advisory Team. And on the way, and I was there representing Geneva and our progress on this really incredible investment. And I was going up kind of as a cheerleader. Hey, this is great. Thank you. And, I can just chat it up as long as you want. I can sell a lot of sizzle even if we don't have much stake, which at the time we didn't have a lot of stake. We'd only had the award for about a month. And I noticed this incredible focus on this trip up. People were really thinking and really going over notes, and I said, "Wait, guys, we won. We already won, right?" The region had just been blessed with a $500 million investment for the Upstate Revitalization Initiative. The city had just been blessed with a $10 million award, and the sense I got, the feeling I got in that crowd was the way you continue to get investment from Governor Cuomo's administration and the state of New York is to produce. You haven't done anything yet. You got the promise of $500 million. You got the promise of $10 million. If you want to come back with your hat in your hand again, it better be full of results. So my challenge to the city of Geneva is to do what you do best, to do what we do best. And that is, over the next year, roll up our sleeves, take this $10 million, turn it into $30 million, and come back to Governor Cuomo's administration and say, it's time to reinvest in Geneva. So I want to thank everyone here for all the work you've done. I want to thank Governor Cuomo, all the state representatives for all of your confidence in the Geneva market. It's not misplaced. We will demonstrate results. When you come back, you'll see a completely transformed downtown. A quick plug for Howard Zemsky's Netflix special coming up, a full series, 13 episodes. Anyway, that was a lame joke. Lame joke. We had to end on a lame joke. But I really do thank you all. Thanks for being here. Thanks to Governor Cuomo and all of our guests. Stick around in Geneva. It's Friday night. There's a lot going on. Enjoy dinner and this amazing lakefront. Thanks, everybody.